Oh, welcome back to the Manly Mythical Story Emporium. And me, Thurston, J.Y. Manly, is your host for the Manly Mythical Story Emporium, or MMSE. Hashtag MMSE, or pound sign MMSE, based on how old you are. I'm more of a pound sign hashtag-ish person. But you can find any of these stories on all your available platforms. We are now on Apple Podcasts as well as Spotify and several other platforms, which I don't use as much. I think Breaker is one of them that we're on too. But anyway, these stories today are based on the theme siblings. Now, I am an only child, so I had to get a little creative with the sibling stories. The first story involves as I call him, my brother cousin. It's a cousin I grew up with and spent a lot of time with. It's a funny story. Shouldn't be anything too offensive in those stories. We do mention alcohol and slight deformities, body deformities in there. The second story is the cousin exchange program. Now, that story does involve mafia, drugs, and risque dance clubs. So be aware when you listen to that second story. It's not as, for everybody. It's not as G-rated as some of my stories tend to be. But that's why I got this platform, so I can tell a little bit of the edgier stories that I'm not allowed to tell at a Toastmasters event or a storytelling event based on the crowd. So you have been forewarned. Now, if you have any ideas for stories you want me to tell, any themes you want me to use outside of this Triad Storytelling Guild, or any stories outside of maybe the Moth themes, you can reach me on IG at Manly Mythical Story at IG. The name is Manly, Manley, Mythical Story. The other way you can reach me is probably by email. You can reach me by email. I'll check it. But some of y'all don't be sending those viruses, and no, I'm not sending money to anybody in any other country for anything, because I don't have any money yet. Unless you start downloading more, you spread it, then you can send those money requests. Still ain't gonna get it. My email is manlystory, Manley, story, STORY at gmail.com. Please send any suggestions for the show, things you want to hear. If you know me, I'll try to tell personal stories if you want me to tell one of those. I have gotten one request already through Instagram about a story we're going to tell, and that'll probably be next week. But this week, stories about siblings. Right after this ad, we'll get into the first story. Thank you for joining Manly Mythical Story Emporium. Download, please. Now, I didn't have any siblings growing up technically, but I did have a brother cousin. My brother cousin was Jamel. He was always there when I got home from school because I took the school bus to my grandfather's house. And during my early years of elementary school, he lived at my grandfather's house with his family, my uncle and my aunt. And we partied and played all the time. By partied, I usually meant drink those Hugs juices that got the foil top that came in the barrel, and eat cereal and played Nintendo if we had a Nintendo then. In the later years, we had a Nintendo and eventually Sega. We were doing very well for ourselves. At least we felt like it. But it was great having him there because he would be there right when I got out of school. And by the time it could get annoying of having somebody younger around, because he was 4 years younger than I was, when I got tired of that, then it was like, all right, time to go home. My parents would come get me. And didn't have to share a room or anything like that. And I don't think we had any fights to this day. I only remember yelling at him or fussing at him one time, and that was because we were playing Dukes of Hazzard, basically, jumping our bikes, which we shouldn't have been playing Dukes of Hazzard with the big General Elite Confederate flag on the car, but that's another story altogether. But we were playing Dukes of Hazzard, and I took my bike and jumped this ramp that we had set up out of plywood, and we had put it on like an old tire that was in my grandfather's backyard, and jumped, and I fell off the bike, but somehow the seat hit me in my chest, and for a second there, I could tell you my soul kind of left my body and knocked all the wind out of me. And he just laughed, and I did not enjoy that laughter that he was kind of pontificating upon me. So I fussed at him, but that was about it. It was over in a few seconds. We had many adventures at our grandfather's house together. We called one of them the plum incident, where my grandfather had chicken farm, but he also had a lot of fruit trees. and we loved the plums. And the thing about the plums were we like to eat them when they were still like that tangy flavor and new. So we would shake the plum tree, get the plums off, and eat them. And we realized later, after eating a bunch of them one time, that plums are actually hydrated versions of prunes, because prunes are dehydrated versions of plums. And we ate like a lot of them. And Grandpa only had one bathroom in there, and it was down a long hallway. I don't think you've seen like roller derby didn't fight as much as we did down that tight hallway trying to get to that bathroom after those plums did what they were supposed to do. But that was the biggest strife we had, fighting over the toilet that one day and hitting, when my soul left my body after trying to play Dukes of Hazzard with my bike. But we stuck together for years, and we still are tight to this day. But one of the funnier experiences I've had with him, it was in our college years, because we both went to college. He was 4 years behind me, and I was lucky enough to be a super senior when I went to college in Greensboro at Guilford College. And he decided, because he had this engineering brain and better training than I did, because he eventually got out of grandfather's house and went to Raleigh, the big city, and he had good schooling, and he got trained in stuff that you would use in the real world, like computers, which in Lewisburg, when I learned to type or keyboard, I learned on a typewriter like Murder, She Wrote, the clickety clack. And he learned SCAD at the same year, corresponding to when I learned how to type, just to give you the disparities in the education between Franklin County and Wake County at that time. And he went to A&T, an engineer. I went to a liberal arts school because I felt I needed to write better and communicate better. During the weekends, what we would do is we would go to each other's college when he eventually got to Greensboro. And he would come to mine a little bit more, because our parties we had the traditional, when you think of college parties, like a kegger or, just a table that had alcohol and everything on it, and you could just get what you want. While at A&T, it was kind of like people would buy it and you'd bring your own and things like that. And their security was a lot tighter. There was no real parties, I think, on campus at that time. You had to go to an off-campus party. And, he was sociable, popular, and everything like that. But going to an off-campus party for your freshman year, it's kind of like, where am I going? Let me just kick it with my cousin. So he would come up to Guilford, and I had been at Guilford for 4 years then, so I knew a lot of people, almost everybody on campus. So we could always find something to do during the weekend. And if anything was going on, he would come over to our campus. And eventually, my super senior year, that second year, I got a suite. And in that suite, we had built this bar. We had acquired some milk crates, legally, we'll say. As far as my memory, I plead the fifth on how we got the milk crates. We got some milk crates. We got an old bookcase we found laying out almost in the trash outside of campus. And we had built this bar, which made our suite even more popular than most. And whenever we got recruits to campus for football, lacrosse, or anything like that, they would bring them by, because I was pretty close with the lacrosse suite. Their suite was next to ours, but their suite was considerably more dirty than ours. I don't even think they had a couch or anything. We bought all our couches from Goodwill. We put nice black sheets on them so it looked like they matched, even though they didn't. And they would bring the recruits to us, because the lacrosse suite had taken the door off their closet and made it into like this beer pong table, and the floor was like muddy and dirty, and they still played beer pong, and the balls would still hit the ground in the mud, in the dirt, and they just pick it up and put it in a cup of water, like that would cure swine flu or something. I don't know. But right now, that wouldn't fly right now. They would all be taken out by the COVID. But our suite was considerably cleaner, not because of my fault, not because of me by any means, but because we had an RA on the hall in our suite, and he was a clean freak, so we had to keep it clean in order to get anything done. And one weekend, he came up to see us. Now, one thing I didn't tell you about Jamel, when we was growing up and in Grandpa's house, when he was younger, maybe, I don't know how old he was, maybe 2 or 3, he had crawled on the floor and had put his hand on a iron. Somebody had left the iron to like iron your clothes on the ground, and he had touched it with his hand and burned his hand real bad. And in order for them to save the skin or just protect them, they had to grab some skin from the thigh and put it on his hand. Now this caused, because he is also a person of color like myself, it caused his hand to be that brown color on both sides because of the skin. So you don't really notice it. It's not bad. It's in the palm of his hand. It's almost like the whole palm of his hand. If you're not paying attention, you would never notice. Like, you can meet him. It's not something that's that obvious. Like, maybe if you went out and shake his hand, you would kind of see it. It looks, the best way to describe it, maybe like a wet paper bag piece that's in the middle of his hand. And only a couple people would notice it. But this weekend, it got noticed. The reason it got noticed is because we had a lacrosse recruit come in. This female lacrosse recruit. And they brought her to our suite to see the bar and hang out. And my cousin Jamel was there at the same time. And he was actually in my room playing games. And I was just in the suite drinking. Knew that somebody was coming by to just see the suite and see how the rooms were and what you could do with them. And she was holding her purse and kept her hands kind of tucked behind the purse. You know, little lady, little white girl, blonde hair, cute, and it's holding the bag. The best way I can describe her is to maybe the girl from Legally Blonde kind of attractiveness, if you like that thing. And she came up and she said hello, and she was from the South, so she said, "How you doing?" And I look considerably older than she did, definitely at that time, because that facial hair and all that. And she says, "Oh, it was nice to meet you. Thank you for inviting me over to your suite." And she reached out to shake my hand. And her hand, she had 5 fingers. Not 4 fingers and a thumb, but she had 5 fingers. Like, her thumb, as she explained, after I kind of gave her hand a look and shook the hand anyway slowly, is her thumb was like a double finger. And her thumb was as long as her pointer finger. Because I think when she was born, she had 6 fingers. They took one of them out, so she had 5 fingers. So they cut her the little thumb off, and used that extra finger as a thumb. So when she shook your hand, it's kind of like you normally lock and shake hands. You know, it's something we did probably before COVID happened. We don't shake hands anymore, but we shook hands, and that finger would almost touch your wrist when it came down. And it's obvious. Like, she pulls it out, you're like, whoa, that's long finger right there. And shook hands and said, no, she's otherwise attractive, dressed nice, everything. And I felt she was confident enough to shake her hand. I mentioned, I was like, oh man, that's a longer finger. How does that work out with lacrosse? You don't have no problems? And no, we just talked about it. Everybody talked about it because I brought it up, and it was kind of like suck the air out of the room. But I was generally asking. I was like, and I was told I was nice to meet her and have her, and it went over well. Usually I can get away with a lot of things like that because I don't know, people feel that it comes from a good place, or it's funny, or they just, don't want to smoke for whatever reason. But I would apologize instantly if I felt like it offended or brought attention to it, because I have done that before too. But this time it did not. It worked out well because I'm just coming off the hip and the heart and honest with it. But Jamel did not hear none of this conversation. He immediately comes out holding his drink and saying, "What up, everybody?" It's like, "Oh, we got a new girl in the house." And he leans out to shake her hand, and almost at the simultaneously, in sync, just perfectly, you see both of their eyes go to the other person's hands with this judgment of what is wrong with your phalanges and or appendages that are coming towards me right now. Because she sees the little brown thing in his hand, and he just sees this extra finger coming at him, and they kind of just stick their hand away, almost like when you try to stick your arm in a vending machine to kind of reach that snack off the bottom. That's both what they were doing, sticking their arm up in there and keeping it further away and holding it out. And they shook hands, and they just looked, and you could just see them both oh, I need to wash my hand now because he done put something on me, or she done put something on me. I might get this. And they just walk away out of the conversation. And I just thought to myself, I was like, ain't that the most stereotypical messed up stuff you ever seen in your life? And it was funny. Oh my gosh, I laughed. And I called it out. It's almost this is like, oh, you didn't like that, you didn't like that. But she had left by the time I had called it out because I still didn't know her like that. I didn't want to bring it up. But he's like, man, what was going on here? I was like, she was looking at you like, what was going on with your head? And I just want to say, hey, man, don't judge. Don't judge anybody based on it. And it's just the most enjoyable thing I can remember about my brother cousin, Jamel. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that story, brother cousins. Just to slip a little dad joke in there because I am a father of two. That is hands down one of the best stories I have on my cousin Jamel. Now I hope you stick around. Please listen to the second story. This involves the cousin exchange program, something that was ruined by the crack era. Thank you. In the summer of 1996, it was the end of an era that was in our family. The era was the cousin exchange program. The way the cousin exchange program worked is that all of your country cousins would go to see the city cousins and stay with them for a couple weeks. And the city cousins would then come to the country and stay with us for a week or two. Now, this is a good program because this gives you all different types of experience. And surprisingly enough, the city cousins enjoyed it too because they would get to come to Lewisburg, North Carolina, and they would get to go fishing on people's personal lakes. It wasn't required as much to have your fishing license as it was in New Jersey. The only thing they did get to miss out on was bowling. That's another thing that my family was into in New Jersey. I have no idea why. I think it's something with the factory workers because I think one of them worked in a plant that built cars, maybe Lincolns, because we really had a good obsession with Lincoln Continentals. My grandmother to this day has Lincoln Continental. She has no license. She's almost 98 or 100 years old and has no license, does not drive, but her Lincoln was bought brand new and never driven it. Just got driven around in it, Lincoln Presidential. But the best part for me, being the only real country cousin going north, was the ices, being in a city, being in a place that actually had a bus system, and seeing people. That you really just don't get that in Lewisburg, North Carolina. Just going around the buildings, being so close to New York, because mainly you stayed in Jersey City. That's where my grandmother was based at. And that was part of the cousin exchange program. You get to go to East Plainfield, New York. You get to go to Newark. I got to go to Valley Fair. And Valley Fair was great because gave me the ability to get all these fresh new clothes every year. I had Nikes. They were mainly knockoff Nikes, but because I was going to school pre-internet, nobody could tell the difference. The only thing they did was check the tag, and those fakes and knockoffs were good enough that they had a tag on them. And people would say like, oh, I never seen that color shoe before. I never seen those type of pants before. And I was like, yeah, just don't call Nike because they haven't seen them yet either. But it was such a great experience. And in this summer of 96, it was the end of that era because now I've gotten old enough and I had things to do. I had to do summer camps or do things to try to get into college. And in the summer, I actually looked old enough to hang out with my much, much older cousin. One of my cousins was about 10 years older than me. And he let me hang out with him because I looked older than I was. And I had no idea what this experience was going to take me on. He came and picked me up at 3 on a Saturday. And you would think you wouldn't get in that much trouble in 3 on a Saturday. And this may be true in the country, but in New Jersey and New York, you can find trouble at that time of day. And he took me to see some of his friends. He took me to see his friend first, Los. And Los needed a ride, apparently. So I thought Los was maybe struggling because he was like, oh, well, Los can't move today, but we're going to get busy tonight and you're going to make some money tonight, but we're going to have a good time. It's like, oh, okay, whatever you say. And we went to pick Los up, and Los had a nice townhouse. Oh man, it was a 3-story townhouse. And we were waiting outside of his house when he came up, and with him, his wife, 3 kids, and they all had stacks of shoe boxes where they just went shoe shopping. I was like, oh man, this is all right. And they said, oh, well, while I get ready, why don't you go play video games? And the other kids like, no, we got to try our shoes on. So I got to play the PlayStation, which was a new thing then. And they had a stack of PlayStation games. And I was just impressed. And by stack, I mean they had taken the CDs with great disregard and put them on top of each other, not on a spindle, just stacked like a sandwich on top of each other. And they were as thick as maybe your hand. Like if you were to hold your thumb probably as far down as you could, and then maybe your middle finger just bent it ever so slightly, just so that top little crease could bend. That's how thick the games were. I mean, I don't know how many is in there. I couldn't even estimate this. Maybe 50 games, and these games are like $50 a piece, $40-$30 a piece at least. And they just had them just sitting out, like, send them out like they're candy left by your grandmother or something. And so I was playing games, and it was like, all right, we gotta go get some money. I'm like, okay. So we drove to a couple different houses, went through tolls. I got to select the music. I picked some Outkast, which, because I'm from the South, Outkast is slapping. To me, that's good music at the time. And I couldn't believe that they didn't really listen to Outkast up there. And it came to the song, The Gangsta, and it was like, oh, I didn't know they made music like this. This was the most impressed I think they were of me, besides the fact that I looked like I was 28 at the age of 15, about to turn 16. And we rode around and went to a couple different people's houses, picked up some money, picked up some aluminum foil items, which turns out this story is often told as the first time I got to see crack. And yeah, that was crack in those. And the goal for the night was to go to these go-go bars. And I didn't know what a go-go bar was, because in the South we called them strip clubs. But in New Jersey, apparently they called go-go bars or dance clubs, or maybe they call them strip clubs, but it was called go-go bars. That's the only term they use for me, around me anyway. I think they purposely didn't call them strip clubs because they didn't want me to get excited, just to see the reaction of the young boy going in. But as soon as we pulled up, I freaked out, because I was like, yo, I'm not 21. Don't you gotta be 21 to go in, or at least 18? It's like, no, you with us. You with the crew. And I was like, the crew is 3 of us in a Lincoln Mark 8. The Lincoln Mark 8 looks basically like the Training Day car that Denzel had in the movie Training Day. That's basically the car we were riding in. And this was as close as I've gotten to a Training Day experience, because I'm in a whole new world, almost like Frozen and whatnots. And we pull up to the first go-go bar, and it looks like a house, has a screen door. I don't know what kind of club, go-go, dance, strip, or even juke joint has a screen door on it, like in the movie Color Purple with Suge. But we pull up, a screen door, go in, and it was girls doing their work in the middle of this kind of U-shaped figure couch and bar stage. So they had the bartenders between the dancers. The dancers are far off. The best way I can describe it is maybe the Bada Bing from The Sopranos is as close as I could get to describing it. And while I was there, I got to see the ladies and the security coming in. As I'm staring at the ladies before I even get to my seat, they didn't stop us. Didn't ask for ID. Didn't ask for any money. They just let me go past, and they caught the guy that was behind us. And it turns out these 3 other guys were waiting on us there, and they covered us before we came in, and so they let us in. And the girls were dancing, and then every now and then they'll come and talk to the guys. And a bartender came and was like, what do you want to drink? I was like, rum and Coke. We got you. So they give me free drinks. So I'm getting free drinks. And I just ordered a rum and Coke based off of lack of experience. Never going to a bar to order a drink. The only drink I had up until that time was maybe sneaking to certain gas stations in Lewisburg that shall remain nameless. I'm going to keep them nameless because they might still be doing that thing and I don't want to mess up the money flow, is get St. Ives Special Brew at the gas station when they wouldn't card. And this is my first hard liquor drink, or even trying to order one from a person that would serve it to me. And rum and coke, I might have saw in the movie. Turns out, it's all right. So I drink it and hanging out, and the girls are dancing. I'm like, okay, this is gonna be a good night. You know, I was like, this is straight like 6 o'clock, man. Let's do it. So I'm drinking, hanging out, and then we gotta leave, just abruptly. So we leave, and we get to the car, and these guys are counting money. And I was like, oh man, they got money. I was like, that's why I gotta get in for free. And sure enough, he's like, here you go. How much money you need? I'll take whatever it costs to get in or hang out with you guys. He gave me $100. I was like, this is a lot of money considering I don't work. I came out just to hang out with him, and my cousin just looks at me. He's like, see, I told you, I got you, man. I got you. We straight. We're gonna be all right. So then we go to another strip club. This one looks more like what I'm used to. This go-go bar has the neon lights. It looks more like a temple to titty or a tabernacle of strippage. And it's glowing, it's, mirrored outside. And we go in there, and I was like, oh yeah, they're going to card us in here. This one looks like official tissue. It would be almost comparing that local carnival that comes to your parking lot was the first go-go bar I went to, or strip club, and this one would be like Disneyland. So it's a whole different professionalism up in here. They have everything but Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck running around. And I go in, and these guys are in tuxes working the bar and working the door, and they do the same thing. Roll through. The guy talks to some of the dancers. My cousin talks to some of the other dancers. They exchange some of the little foil packets, also known as maybe crack cocaine. I don't know. It's past the statute of limitations. So all this is maybe allegedly. I could be not remembering it fully or clearly, just for government purposes, now that we are on a recorded line or whatnot. But they do the exchanges, get the cash, come out to the car, and now I'm getting more money. I got $50, another $50. So now I'm 150 up. I'm 3 drinks in, been to all these dance clubs, and I've made money. I was like, man, I don't know what they've been saying about Jersey, Dirty Jersey, or in the show Hamilton, they said everything's legal in Jersey, and I likes it. This is all right state for me. We go to another city. It's getting grungy, and we picked up another group of 4 guys. They meet us outside of this club, and this club, it was like a brick building. It was that old Jersey brick, like if you watch Sopranos, that's like stone stacked on top of stack, like the limestone type of brick that's textured. You see it in Jersey and Philly a lot. You don't really see it in the South. And it has classic beer signs, neon beer signs outside, glowing. And I decided to go in with them because I don't have a choice. I'm not sitting outside at this club in Jersey. And we go in, and they have a few more dancers, quite a few. And this one looks more like what you think of like a Roadhouse bar, and it's around the outside. And some of the other guys are going to the VIP room. I'm just standing there with my cousin, and it's these guys at the end of the bar, and it's these white guys. One of them has like the gray hair, older, got those thick frames like the Harry Carey box frames, kind of like Versace, old Jay-Z looking video frames, the ones that like Dame Dash wears. And then there's some younger guys. It looks straight like an imitation of The Sopranos, but they wouldn't be the imitation because I think these guys was real. But Los knows them. Los talks to one of the younger guys. All the older, bigger guys are just looking at him, being quiet, like your Tony Soprano characters. All of them are just standing there looking. But he knows one of the young boys that are hanging out with the tank. Slick back hair, black leather coats. Someone got suits on. They got the fancy shirts that just barely cover your belly, with all the designs, Versace's or whatnot. Slacks. You know there's a problem if the dude's got like slacks on with the pleated fronts on them. Older guys in the strip club, wingtip shoes, pleated fronts, don't trust it. Because if you're wearing pleated front pants to a strip club, something's probably wrong with you, either a killer or a creeper. Because, there's the extra room in there for lap dances. So I'm worried. I'm concerned. Even at a young age, I knew pleated pants can't be trusted. And they just sat there and they were talking. And then all of a sudden, one of the goons that we had picked up outside, big guy, just starts talking trash to this other guy for no reason. Another brother on the side. And so he just swung on him. And it turns out the other guy had a big chain on. So he just started a fight with him, swung on him. And so now I'm stacked up against the wall. Fight breaks out. My back is against the wall. I'm looking. My cousin stands in front of me. He's clearing the way because apparently my older cousin, has been in this situation before. Now, my older cousin is built like a box, like a Bernard Hopkins kind of looking character, but he can bench press like 450 easy. And he's just clearing the chairs and he's standing in front of me, make sure nothing happens. And these people are fighting. They're trying to get the guy's chain. One of them gets the guy's chain, and the friend of the guy that gets knocked out looks at me. He's like, "Why did he do that?" And I was like, "I don't know." So I'm taking my fighter's pose back, and my cousin's like, "Yo, you need to back up." And he just backed up. But the fight is going on, and this old dude with the Harry Carey glasses, the spokesman for the Cubs looking dude, gray hair, slick back, big glasses, got the pleated pants on, wing tips, plaid like polo shirt, but it's not a polo shirt because it had a little crease at the bottom, so you don't have to tuck it. And he just walks out. This guy is like 5'5" at best. On his best day, 5'5" on his tiptoes. Goes in the middle of the fight among these 6'5", 6, big brothers, young athletic dudes, and just holds his hands up, and they stop. They just stop fighting. They see him come out there. He's like, "Ho, ho, ho, clear it out." And sure enough, cleared it out, and we left. And I have no idea what's just happened. I think I've had my first mafia interaction here. There's money, and I guess like all of a sudden everybody that was with me realized like, yo, we got drugs in the car, we got cash on us. I don't know if we got weapons on us. I was not aware, but we rolled instantly. We left there in a hurry. Didn't get any money that time. Somebody messed up the money. And the whole time I drove back, I was just rode back because not old enough to drive. Definitely didn't know where I was going. Riding in the Lincoln Mark 8 with two people that are probably inebriated, had a lot more than the 3 rum and cokes I've had. And they were just saying how that was a successful night. Now, because of this mafia experience, I went from making my plans to go to maybe a Rutgers University or school in Jersey, hang out with my cousin, to instantly saying, I couldn't do it. We're not going here. I'm just a country boy and I stayed my fishing. And that was my last experience and the end of the cousin exchange program. Crack has ruined another great opportunity for the Black community. Thank you. I'd like to thank you for listening to my podcast, Manly Mythical Story Emporium, or MMSE. The random thought that I'd like to add, this segment I like to call, I was thinking. Today, I was thinking, finally, I got approval to go on Apple Podcasts. It took about 2 weeks to do this. It was a serious background check or whatever it was to get approved, to get put on the iTunes platform. And I thought it was odd that it took so long to get this done, considering you can get a concealed and carry permit to buy in shorter amount of time. Now, it didn't cost any money, but it's amazing to me that it took longer to get recorded words approved and stories approved on a massive platform as opposed to get a weapon of death. That's my random thought. I don't know if that speaks to anything at all, but it was just hilarious to me because we were doing both at the same time, getting this, I think it's concealed, not a concealed and carry, but like ability to purchase a handgun in the state of North Carolina. And that was like $5-10, even in this COVID era, to get that and get that faster than getting approved on this Apple program. So I don't know if that speaks that words are dangerous, words are concerning, or the fact that, They worry about more about what you're going to advertise and what kind of money you're going to get versus me getting the actual gun. But that's my random thought. I hope you follow us on Instagram, and that Instagram is Manly Mythical Story. My email is manly. What is my email? That's a good question. Email. This is all new. So my email is manlystory@gmail. So that's manlystory@gmail. And you can email me any ideas or stories you want me to tell. Maybe if you know me, send me a special request. I'll hook you up, put it in here, and just tell me if you want me to include your name or not, or you want it to remain anonymous in there. And I'll gladly tell that story and put it out there. So thank you for listening. Please download this podcast if you could. It helps with the dollars. Eventually, there will be a Patreon account maybe getting set up because I got to figure out what's being involved in it because it's just me and I would need some money because right now we're recording it kind of #bootleg, just in the garage here with the recording equipment, trying to make it sound professional as I can. But if anything can improve it where you don't hear noises in the background, kids running through, help a brother out, send some dollars this way. But please just follow me right now and download. This is the best way you can help me right now. Download the podcast on whatever platform you're listening to me on, and just follow me on IG. Thank you. Enjoy your week.